Holly, thank you so much for being here. I know you are known as the no-nonsense self-development coach. So no nonsense, how are you doing today?
Actually excellent, because I feel like, I went to the gym, so already I feel like a hero. Like, just like, I'm not a gym goer. I do my best to move my body in that, but I'm not. So when I go, I feel like I'm like a living legend and I pat myself on the back, probably too much. But it was a great start to the day. I've been very productive, lots of nice, exciting things happening. I've had a great lunch. It's been great. That's the more of a detailed answer than you might require, but excellent. No nonsense here.
No nonsense here. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear. And yeah, do pat yourself on the back. When we do things that we don't love doing, but we know we need to do for our mental, physical, emotional health, it is really important to give ourselves that little pat on the back. So I love it.
Yes.
And so you are so many things, and so many things beyond all of these things. I don't believe in boxes. I don't like boxes, because we will eventually outgrow them and they will keep us in. But to name a few things that you are an actress, author, TV personality. You have a slot on BBC Radio, Monday Motivation, podcaster. You got TED Talks. You're a vlogger. You're an NLP practitioner, YouTuber, coach. You're even hosting a festival that we're going to talk out in a bit. So, the first thing that came to mind when I'm reading all of this is like, give someone else a go. Doing everything.
When you read it out like that, even I'm like, Christ, that's a lot of stuff. Do you know what the lucky thing is though? Now I feel anyway, back in the day, because I've never had a proper job. I started out as an actress, and then I muddled my way through just trying different things, lots of different things as we've listed and more. But what I love is that when I first started out doing that, it wasn't the thing, like people didn't do it. And there was always that notion of jack of all trades, master of none. That's saying that, people like to tout about. However, if we're talking to younger people than I now, that is not the case. It is almost seen as applauded. It's like a good thing now. It's, oh, well, you have what they call it, multi-passionate. Isn't that the thing that they say now? Multi-passionate. And I'm definitely multi-passionate and have enjoyed doing many things in my life. And I'm sure I will double back on a few. I'm sure I will try new things. But I think the most important thing in our happiness is that we don't stay the same throughout our lives. We change. And I think this is sometimes when people get stuck in a thing, they get stuck in who they think they should be in this world. That's where we start to become unstuck, where we feel a bit rubbish, because we're not going to stay the same. If I stay the same from being a child till my death, which is hopefully old and grey in my bed, we would like to think, if we have all that time and we don't change our opinions or our thoughts or our likes and dislikes, I'm not talking about your fundamentals, but it's going to be a pretty boring life. So I think it's important to try different things, and I try not to limit myself, and I just go with what feels exciting at the time.
Love it. Yeah, smash the box. And there's one of my favorite people, Marie Forleo. She describes herself as a multi-passionate entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I love that.
Love Marie Forleo. And actually, she comes from an entertainment background. And because I didn't know who years ago, she's obviously been around a long time now. And a friend of mine was like, I'm listening. This was like, 10 years ago. I'm listening to this woman, Marie Forleo. You're going to love her. She's really similar to you in her approach. And I was like, who's this Marie Forleo? And she came from kind of a dance background and sort of that kind of world. And I remember hearing her say everything is figure outable, which is now one of her books, isn't it? And so I have that. In fact, is it there? I'm not bullshitting you. Look, everything is figure outable is on my phone, on my screen. Everything is, because I think about it all the time. Like there's always a way. I am that weed that grows up through the cement. Like I think when we can think about that was a terrible description of myself, but like we're going to go through some tough stuff, and that's kind of how I see my own world is like, you just got to find the positive. There's a route through it. Everything is figure outable. So I massively resonate with Marie Forleo, and she's done many things, hasn't she, before becoming a coach?
Yeah, she's done so many things, and she's done them all fantastically well. She's like one of my favorite people. So we'll give her a little tag in the comments.
Sure.
And everything is figure outable. And we do at some stage of our lives need to be that weed that's busting through the concrete. We just have to be. And I love what you said about change there. Like you said, like, hopefully we do change. And my take on that is like, we're changing anyway. Like, you are going to change.
Yeah, regardless, whether you like it or not, it's moving.
Yeah, exactly. And every aspect of you is changing. They say, I think that like every 7 years when you're an adult, even every like cell in your body is replenished every 7 years.
Yeah.
So like even physically in 7 years time, there won't be a single thing about you that is still you. And, you know, certainly if you cast your mind back, if anyone casts their mind back 7 years, you have different beliefs, you have different views, you have different opinions. So I always say you're changing anyway. You might as well get in the driver's seat.
100%. I love that. I love that thought, actually. And I did know that as a fact. Like I knew that, but just thinking about that then, that's so helpful to people. You were literally, you're a whole different person to you were before, especially if we're carrying trauma and we're carrying stuff of something really challenging that's happened in our life, or we're not forgiving ourselves. You're literally a different person. You're a different person from a cellular level. I love that. That's something you're going to hear me talking about that again for sure.
Go ahead, dude. The quote, I don't think I made it up. I don't think I made it up.
I'll check it. I'll fact check you. It's all right. It's all good. We'll make sure the science is on our side. Yeah,
exactly. Well, the fact is true, but the quote about change, I think, comes from someone else. I can't credit them, but you know, moving on. Thank you to them, whoever they are.
Whoever they are, yeah.
So just looking up everything that you do, like it really all came together for me when I was like doing a little bit of research and thinking about this, when I saw you in a t-shirt, a little bit Deepak and a little bit Tupak.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, now I get it. That was all that was necessary. So tell me about what that means to you.
Do you know what? I definitely saw that. That is not my original thing. I saw that somewhere, and it was I created that jumper. I'm going to do a new one because it's faded. But I created that for one of my events because it really does sum me up. And I often say to people, like, I am a very passionate human being. Like, I can be very fiery. I'm quick to opinions. I'm quick to temper if I'm not careful, if I don't meditate and keep on top of all of my triggers and all of that stuff. I'm a very fiery human being, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like I do tend to be very out there. However, on the flip side of that, I've been meditating and doing stuff like that since I was a really young child. Like, I was that hippie kid. I was and I talk about it in my book, but I was it was a kind of polar, very different lived experience on the outside to what I was doing at home. So I'm living in the Newcastle, working class school area, and I'm going out and I'm, a 90s kid. So I'm listening to happy hardcore and drinking cheap wine on the streets with my friends and getting into a bit of trouble. Nothing too serious, but, living the 90s kid dream. And then I'm going home and I was on TV from 11 years old. So I was already dealing with other stuff that other kids, my peers weren't dealing with. And I was going through all kind of, body dysmorphia type stuff because I was on screen all the time and didn't like the way I looked, and it's your teenager, so it's awkward. So I was going home and I'm listening to like monks chanting and trying to work out, how do you feel happy? Like, how do people like get through this stuff? And I was doing that from like really, really young. So when I think about that top, a little bit Deepak, a little bit Tupak, to me, that kind of sums up the aspects of my personality, which I think can sit in one human being. You can, meditate and also want to drop kick somebody in the head. Like, you can be two things in one body. We go back to, we're not the same thing all of the time. And I think we can have those things together. So I think those two things sum me up. I want you to be happy. I want to help people to be happy. I'm trying to help myself through all of the life stuff and be happy. But, reality is sometimes we're a bit more direct, a bit more confrontational and all of that stuff.
Yeah, you're also going to get stuff done as well.
Yes, and that, yeah.
I'd love to dive into that meditation thing you mentioned a minute ago, because I know off screen you mentioned that you have ADHD and you super busy person. You're out there. You wear your heart on your sleeve, as you said, and you said that you've meditated from a young age as well. And I work with a lot of clients to begin their meditation journey. That's where I have found myself in terms of wellness journey and a morning routine. I'm really passionate about starting because I think that's by far the biggest step. And the one thing that I get a lot of comments about in terms of like people like engaging my posts and people that I speak to just in my circle or wherever really, is just that, like meditation's not for me, like running's my form of meditation. I have a really busy mind, I'm really active, I'm this, I'm that. It's not for me. And it usually is resourced from this idea that they are a particular type of person, you know, like busy mind, really energetic, So can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I will often get that kind of shown to me, like, well, how have you got ADHD if you can meditate? And I'm like, it is not easy meditating, right? It's not easy. And it doesn't it's not, I don't mean it's complicated. It's not complicated, but I mean, it's not, your brain is going to want to do all of the stuff. And if you are a busy brain human being, or like most of us, you just have the attention span of a gnat because we're used to constantly having screens in front of us. So a lot of us are going to have that. We have busy minds. That's it. Regardless of whether you have a diagnosis, everybody is living in the age of notifications. So absolutely, it is just about starting. Now, what I'm going to say is, somebody who has a very active mind, I don't sit still necessarily in my meditations. I don't sit in the lotus position. I will sometimes, and again, this is purely from learning this myself and feeling my way through stuff. And I never had somebody teaching me to meditate. I heard about it. And it was, like I say, it was the 90s when I started doing this stuff. I used to just put music on, and like classical chanty music or whatever, like something that I thought was meditation. And I would just go with that. And I remember somebody saying to me, and I think this is actually a really good thing for people starting out, and it was a yoga teacher. And she said, was it meditation? It might have been it was a Buddhist meditation teacher. I take that back. And she said, if you do a 10-minute meditation, whether it's a guided meditation or you're just sitting, doing your pulse or whatever you're doing, if you do 10 minutes and you get 30 seconds of a bit of switch off of your brain, then that's 30 seconds you didn't have before, and you gave your brain some time and some space away. And for me, that's what it's about. You don't win at meditation. It's not like a pass or a fail on meditation, is it? It's a time to sit with yourself. So for me, as I've learned over the years, it's rare I can sit still when I meditate. I just move. And I don't even mean like yoga or Pilates or anything like that. I mean, I literally just sway. I'll move my body a bit. And I'm sure that looks insane if anybody comes in, but that's their business. That sounds like a them problem, not a me problem. So I'll just be sat there and I'll just sway and I'll just rock. I mean, we talked about you using the video for this earlier. Anyway, you might use the video of this podcast. So maybe we just did video of me swaying will be, highly amusing to everybody. But I think it's finding what works for you. And again, when I started meditating, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to find some calm. I was just trying to find that calm. And your brain, when you meditate, as you well know, is going to be busy. Your brain is going to want to think all the stuff. It's going to think back to stuff that you should have said or should have done. It's going to think forward, all the anxieties, all the shopping that you need to do, whatever you need to be doing. It's going to do that. The idea of meditation is to just keep coaxing it back, just keep bringing that monkey brain that wants to jump around back to whether it's the breath or you do your pulse or whatever techniques you use. But I think it's when people do it, they do it once or twice and they're like, well, I'm rubbish at meditation. I can't stop thinking. It's very rare unless you're doing some very deep, and I can never say this word, transcendental Zen. Nice. Yes, thank you. Whew, thank God. Meditation where, it's a different level. And I don't do that type of meditation. I do what I class as urban meditation. And the reason I call it that is because I know there's probably going to be like my kids screaming, police sirens. I live in the city. So, there's going to be dogs barking. And I'm going to meditate around that because that's what's useful to most of us. If you can, be sat in a doctor's waiting room and just, even if you're not closing your eyes, you're just averting your gaze a little bit and just giving yourself a minute to check in with yourself. That to me is meditating. That is also you tuning in with yourself, being present in this moment. And the more we can do that, even if it's, 5 minutes a day, we can give up 5 minutes a day. In fact, and I know I'm just off on a tangent of meditation here. But I think it was Gabriella Bernstein who I heard saying, and I'm butchering the quote, but it was along the lines of, if people who say they haven't got time to meditate, well, have you got time to feel shit? Like, have you got time to feel shit? Because if you feel shit, you're going to be taken out for longer than the 5 minutes you were asked to meditate for. Like, that's it, right?
And I guess there's a Gandhi quote that says, and I'm going to butcher it as well, which is probably worse. It says, everyone should meditate for 20 minutes a day. except if you're really, really busy, in which case you should meditate for an hour a day.
Yes, I've heard it, and I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah,
it is amazing because it feels counterintuitive, but you have to slow down to speed up. So I talk about that a lot because of having a very natural, like a busy mind, and I'm often very impulsive. I know that actually that's not helpful. It's helpful sometimes, but it's not helpful a lot of the time. That kind of speed can create mess and chaos and mistakes. So sometimes you need to, when you think, oh, you go into panic mode, I need to do all the things, or I need to push harder, and you go on social media and hustle culture is thrown in your face. You've got to be busy all of the time, 5 a.m, cold showers and all of that, and you feel all guilt. Instead of doing that, just think, I'm going to slow down to speed up. I'm going to tune in with myself. What do I need right now? Can I ask for help? Can somebody help me through this bit? That's much more beneficial long term than firing yourself to a version of success and then burning out and not being able to do anything. That's not useful to you at all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's we got onto this by talking about meditation, but I think we're talking about any self-care, any well-being practice when we're speaking of it as an investment of time.
Yeah.
And there's the other one. There's a guy, I learned this from Light Watkins. He's incredible, like, meditation teacher. He's got a really good book. I always say it's the one book that I wish that I had read when I started meditating. It's called Bliss More. He's excellent. You're going to love him. And he does like a daily dose, which is, an incredible newsletter where he just does a daily dose of inspiration.
Yeah.
And I learned from him, there's this, I'm just turning into a quotes machine now, but
I love it.
He said there's this thing that said, it goes, the woodsman was asked, you have 10 minutes to chop down a tree. What would you do? He said, I would spend the first 9 minutes sharpening my axe. And like meditation or these well-being practices are sharpening our axe so that when we actually get to work, we do things effectively, efficiently, minimal fuss, fewer mistakes.
Yeah.
And this could apply to meditation. This could apply to breath work, whatever it is that you're doing, even just going for a walk without screens at lunchtime for 20 minutes, whatever you're doing, these are investments of time that are going to save time down the line. That's the way I see it anyway. What do you think about?
No, absolutely, totally agree. It's not wasted time. I think in my book, there's a chapter called Do Nothing. And this has been something that I've had to really lean into because it's not my natural state. And it's not most of our natural states because we're taught to be guilty about doing nothing. We're taught to be guilty about slowing down. But you're absolutely right. The reality is, if we slow down and we create some kind of plan and we actually do things with more of a conscious decision, it's way better. And even a conscious decision to do nothing. And I often say to my clients who struggle with this, put it in your diary, do nothing. You'll feel better about it because you'll feel like it's a ticked job on the list because we're conditioned to, be doing all of the time. So put in your diary, do nothing, 20 minutes, and do nothing for 20 minutes, and you'll feel better. And I mean, all of the science backs it up. I mean, it isn't just us going, oh, this is a really good idea, and people, like we're trying to trick you. Like, the science backs it up. You are more productive if you slow down to speed up. You are more productive if you meditate. You are more productive if you take time. 20 minutes is the optimum when it goes to outside science wise in terms of the benefits for productivity and mental health and all of that. I don't know why it's 20 minutes, but it is. And get outside, you're more productive. If you laugh for 20 minutes, you're more productive. So when we feel guilty because we're scrolling on TikTok, and I'm not talking about doing it unconsciously where you're just stuck in a scroll hole, but let's say you go, right, I'm having 20 minutes to laugh at some TikToks or a YouTube video or whatever. I'm going to just laugh at something. That's so beneficial for your creativity and your productivity. But we feel guilty about it because then we think, oh, I should be doing all of the time. And it's not. We just end up being ineffective and just not as good.
Yeah, as soon as I hear that word should, I'm like, don't go there. Over yourself. And yeah, like this busy mind business is true. Like there's John Kabat-Zinn, he talks about like if you're meditating, or if you're trying to do something that settles the mind and you're constantly thinking, he was like, congratulations, you're alive. Like that's
yeah, well done. So true.
That's how it goes. So we've dived straight into that. That's awesome. I would love to know a little bit about the inspiration for your book, which is coming out next month. Tell us about it.
Okay, so the Happy Me project, the book itself it lived in my brain for a long time because I like to read. I do like to read. And I also find it hard to read. I have to factor reading in. And I'm absolutely obsessed with helping people to feel more happy and less crappy and finding their route through that and living a life that feels good to them. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I don't know why, but I am. It's not enough for me to just be happy. It's not enough for me to work it out. For me, I feel that drive to try and help people, because I look at people and I have clients and people in my communities and I'm like, you're absolutely amazing. Why can't you see it? Like, why can't you see how amazing you are? And so many can't. So many people can't see through, they can't see the wood for the trees. They can't see through their trauma. They can't see through the difficulties. They can't see the good, and everything feels false. So the book for me, the style of the book was, how can I make self-development accessible to people? So it's called the Happy Me Project, a no nonsense guide to self-development. It's 60 chapters. But each chapter is only 4 pages with actionable stuff to do, because the one thing I know about happiness is happiness is a verb. We've got to do some stuff to be happy. It isn't just something, well, maybe it is, I don't know, but we do have to do stuff often, because it's not, life can, shows us all kinds of stuff. We have all kinds of things that we go through that can make us feel really unhappy. So sometimes we have to walk ourselves through things, and that means using different tools. A lot of the stuff I'm sure you talk about, lots of self-development stuff that just helps us walk through it. So the book came about, and it was written during lockdown. I knew I wanted to do it before lockdown, but actually the content of the book was massively I went live the beginning of lockdown for like 3 months solid every day, because I knew that was a way I could give back. It was also useful to me to be connected to human beings, but I just went live for free and life coach people every day for 3 months in my communities. And in doing that, I was working with people real time, and I was having to come up with things quicker and researching and reading and learning lots of new things, because people were coming at me with their individual unique problems. And I'm working, okay, what could they try? And I'm learning loads. And I sat there and I'm writing things on little post-it notes and popping them in my drawer. I mean, it's the ramblings of a lunatic. If you look at it, if you come in the office, it's just a pile of like loads of quotes in there that I've written down. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I'll still look at it now. But I literally took those post-its and those lessons and, other people's stuff that I had worked through with them and all of that, and I made it into a book. And the thing that I really had in my mind, when I first put the proposal together, I knew I wanted it to be something that people just used a lot, like that people went back to, that I didn't want them to feel pressured to read it from front to back like a novel. I wanted it to be that you pick it up, you pick a chapter, you flick through, because I'm a naturally rebellious human. I will want to look at the back first if somebody tells me to look at the front. It's a horrible, I know some of you will resonate with this, right? So I wanted it to be that you just flick through and you pick a chapter. So the one I've just flicked through the book now, Making Friends with Fear, right? So Making Friends with Fear, there's 4 pages of talk about that topic, where I also share my own experience in it. And then at the end, you've got 4 points to think about. And that might be something you have to write, something you have to do, somewhere you have to go, something you have to think about. But these are things that you can try yourself. And I think when you are in a difficult time, or you're just feeling a bit meh, right? You're trying to find your way through it. You don't really want to read a whole book in one big, you have a big lecture about psychology. Like, you just want someone to give you like a thing to try to pull you through it. And so I wanted it to be like that. And it really came about, as I say, of a few things. The Happy Me project came about after the death of my husband. And the Happy Me project was always about what is the easy, low-hanging fruit we can do to do every day, the stuff that, the basics of self-development, the things that we can keep doing that actually pull us through those moments. But the book itself is kind of the next step of that. It's me going, actually, here you go, there's an actual book for you to look at, and you can read it on the toilet, you can read it, you have it in your handbag, you can highlight it. Like, some people are very precious about their books, and I do get that, and all power to you. But sometimes I think when it's a book like this, You need to finger it and thumb it and write notes in it and highlight it, and it needs to look like it's been loved. And I want people to have it as that kind of book. You know, it's in in your pocket in the car, in the door, so that when you sat there and you're having those moments where you've pulled up the car and you just sat there for a bit longer than is necessary. I know I'm not the only person that does that. Just sit in the car. I want to get your book out and just think, right, I'm going to pick a page and we'll read 4 pages. You can do that. You can read 4 pages a day. We all can, even if we tell ourselves that we can't. So that is how the book came about. And I'm like, clearly you can tell I'm very excited and very passionate about it, because I'm just excited for people to have these tools, because they actually do work. They do work if you implement them, not if you just have it on your shelf, as what one of my clients calls shelf help, which I love. Shelf help. Yeah. I mean, I've got some of those up there where I haven't read them yet. And I'm like, look at me with my self-help books. Aren't I so clever? Pat, 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 but not actually implementing the stuff. So I don't want it to be that. None of that nonsense. You're going to read it and try the stuff out and do the activities.
Yeah, I know that feeling. So, you know, when someone's like, oh, have you read Brené Brown's latest book? I'm like, oh, yeah, I've read that. Yeah, I've read that. It's really good. Really good. Like, what am I supposed to be doing from that again? I forget. Yeah, Power of Now. Yeah, I've read that as well. Read that. You live in every moment in the present moment, and you letting go of all of you. Oh, yeah. Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Sort of, probably. Think I don't know. But like you say, it's sometimes you'll read it and you'll like it in that moment, but the minute it stops, you're not implementing the stuff. And I know not all books are books that you have to do a thing from, but when they are, it's nice to be able to actually try those things. And The Power of Now was a book I read when I would have been like 20 maybe. I think it was given to me I was at drama school, and the teacher gave it to me, and he was like quite a spiritual teacher. He did some kind of physical movement thing with us, and he gave me that book to read. I mean, he probably sensed that's why he was giving it to me. He's like, be in this moment right now. And he gave me the book, and I remember reading through it and thinking, nah, I'm going to be living in the future. I'm 20. I'm not going to be living in the now. No, thank you. Let's keep moving forward. I'm not where I want to be. And I read it again, I don't know, maybe like 10, I mean, not even that long ago. How old am I? 10 years ago. Is that? Yeah, I'm quite old now.
We're speaking decades at this
age. I think I read it again when I was older anyway. And I totally understood it on a different level. Like I totally understand why that teacher gave me that book in that moment. It's like, you could do with being more present, my friend. But it's a good book. But as you say, do I reflect on that loads? Probably only in the respect of going, I should try and be more present. But I don't know how much I'm actually doing of that. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's definitely a space, like all of these books, like all of these people we've spoken about, their books are fantastic. I love them. I've got far more books on my shelves than I'll ever be able to read, but I endeavor. But there's a different level of self-help and self-care, which is like daily. And what you're talking about is no nonsense stuff, easily accessible, pick it up, something to do. And if you notice that is something that was helpful for you in a difficult moment, then you can be like, that was easy enough that I can continue to do that. And like, what is the downstream effect of me actually doing this 2-minute exercise every single day? And like, just do it for a month and see. Just give yourself 2 minutes every day to do like one of these exercises and see what happens. Like, it can be life-changing to do those types of things. So I think it's absolutely amazing that you've produced something that normal people can find, except because, you know, all this stuff we're talking about, Power of Now, it's brilliant. I love it, but
it's quite highbrow, isn't it? And it's quite I think a lot of that stuff is quite down your personal development journey, and it's also a very type of self-development, and a lot of people won't resonate with that at all. Like, this book is not woo. It's not woo-woo. If you are a person who's woo-woo or religious, you can add that to it. You can add your own woo. Like, this is not woo. This is straight talking. And I've said to a few people, you know, this is a book that you can give to your cynical friend, the one that thinks self-development and positive mindset's a load of crap, right? You can give them this book and you won't be embarrassed, because it'll be, they can't. My delivery is very honest, as you probably guessed, and I share my own stuff in it, so it's very brutal in some of the aspects of it. In fact, I've given it to my daughters, so they took them to school and said they were going to flex at school. They're 11 and 9. Flex, yeah, it was like showing off. Okay. Oh, yeah. Flex Mummy's book. Wait, I can't pull that off. I think I'm just too old to put that off. I
probably haven't pulled it off.
So she brought my youngest isn't reading it, but my oldest, who's 11, she's reading through it, which is a really weird, vulnerable space as a parent, because I'm like, I'm grassing myself up in some of this. I'm well grassing myself up. But she read it. She was like, Mom, like, she's only read the introduction. That's the longest bit is the introduction, because you kind of got introduced it, but it's a little longer than 4 pages. And she's like, I'm reading the introduction, and she's like, it's really sad, some bits, Mom. It's really sad. And I'm like, yeah, some bits of life are sad, but if you keep reading, you'll also see good stuff as well. Like, it's not all bad. Yes, there are some on paper really painful stuff, and they are and have been really painful. But equally, it's not all one thing. Like, it's also good as well. But she was reading it, and she, you know, she's 11, and she's like, oh, I love how you've written it. It's really like, it's dead easy to understand. And actually that really matters. You know, it really matters that it is that simple. I want it to be simple enough that an 11-year-old can understand and get and be like, so right, like, that makes sense. We don't need to overcomplicate it, do we?
Absolutely. I love that. And I love that it's gonna be something that's gonna be so accessible to everyone, the people that are ready for change, the cynics, the woo-woo people. Everyone's got something in there that they can just action straight away. I think it's awesome. Well done.
Thank you.
In truly special work. And so I'd love to also hear a little bit more about your group, the Happy Me Project group coaching.
Yeah, so it's a membership. So I did do group coaching prior to this as a suck it and see type of thing. I did a 6-week program called the You Got This Academy, and that was in sort of, was that 2020? And what I really found from any of the programs I've done is that kind of what we were saying with the book as well, that people need that check-in and that longevity. It's like going to the gym. You don't just do a retreat of a gym, boot camp, and then that's it. Like, if you just did that, you would get benefit, but then you would drop off if you didn't continue it. So a lot of my clients and stuff were saying, like, can we just have like something there we check in like regularly? So I put the membership together, and that launched at the end of last year. And it's a group. So once a month we do a group session together where we do a Zoom. It's £20 a month. So I didn't make it like, what is it, 199797. I didn't make it so it was not accessible to people. And I'm not pouring shade on that number or that thing. I get it, right? I get why charge whatever you wish, and it's different audiences for different people. But my audience, they're normal people with normal salaries, most of my audience. And I didn't want to price them out of being able to get what they need. I wanted it to be around the price of a cheap gym membership or something. So you can stay in there, so you can keep doing things. So within the membership, we have a group session, but I also go live in the Facebook group every day and we talk. And like this afternoon, I'm always trying to find ways to hold them accountable to the basics. So drink your water, get outside, keep on, sleep well, all of those basic things that we think we can get away with not doing because we just think we can. We think we're somehow cheating the system. Yep, you've got your water as well. Me too. And I only drink out of this tumbler, otherwise I won't drink water. I don't know why. I don't know why that. I think that's a neurodiversity thing. I'll just keep my tumbler. I'll drink my water. But
I thought it was a McDonald's, like large Coca-Cola.
No, it's definitely not that. No, it's definitely not that. It's definitely my water, I promise. But what I'm trying to do in the membership is always find ways for me to do things with them that kind of by default helps them to keep on top of that. So we do a walk and talk. Most weeks I'll do a walk and talk with them where I'll go for a walk and I'll talk about something self-development with them, and I'll encourage them to get out at the same time, or if they can't, watch it on replay and watch it on their walk. So it helps them to be accountable. Today I've tried for the first time, please, I do not think I'm Mrs. Hinch, right? I am a chaotic human being with a messy house. But what I said, let's do a clean with me, because there's an accountability thing to that. And we'll talk self-development while we did it. We talked a lot about simplifying your home, because clutter is a huge issue for our minds, and, clearing out, simplifying, and finding processes that work for you. But also we talked about letting go of shame and all of that stuff. And while I was doing that, I'm doing my dishes and also holding myself accountable, which is fantastic. But I'm always trying to, in the membership, find ways to keep people going with self-development stuff. And we bring in amazing guest speakers. We've had everything from sleep experts to breathwork coaches. This last month, we had an amazing nutritionist called Thalia Pellegrini, and she talked about, you know, all nutrition stuff, which is not something I do, and I cannot offer that to them. And so bringing in these great experts has just been really beneficial for everybody. And it's also, more than anything, you'll know yourself as well when you've been in these spaces, it's the community that you get in there. And people that don't, you know, may live across the other side of the world to you, but you build a connection with, and a space to, just a safe space to land. Like, I'll often describe it as a safe space to land, where when you're feeling rubbish, or to celebrate your wins. Not everybody is able to, you know, talk about this stuff with those around them. So when we're talking about celebrating wins, it's not always the big stuff. You know, it might be that you got dressed this morning. It might be that you made your bed. Those are wins depending on where you are at. So we actually had last month, or was it the month before, we had an awards ceremony within the membership. And it was a bit of fun, but it was a way for us to stay on track with their goals. It was, you know, like, they'll say to themselves, say at the beginning of the month, this is my goal for this month. And, you know, if they achieve that and they let me know, some of them won an award for that, like the, you know, goal getter awards, or people who were just really helpful in the community, like they'd be like the Golden Heart Award or whatever. It's a bit of fun. It's gamifying life a little bit, but it actually is really beneficial because it makes us do the stuff. And just because we're adults doesn't mean that we want to do things in a boring way. You know, sometimes we've got to find ways through all of the stuff that actually helps us.
Yeah, definitely. And you were talking earlier about the science behind it, and you mentioned they're gamifying. It's so true. As book by James Clear called Atomic Habits, and there's
yes, love it.
Oh, you love it. It's great. Yeah, 4 laws of habit building. Right, make it obvious, make it easy, make it attractive, make it satisfying. And that satisfying element is like having that group of people, or even that person to celebrate with, whether that's your coach, your therapist, your group, your community.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really, really important to have that element where you, like you said earlier, give yourself that pat on the back, but not just to yourself, have other people to be like, well done. There's a component to that which actually gives us a dopamine hit when we get celebrated by other people. And that dopamine hit, and this is a guy called Andrew Huberman talks about this, he's a neuroscientist. He talks about when you get that, it's not just about like feeling good. It actually helps you to continue to develop, continue to give you motivation to do whatever it is that you're going to do next. And I think that most people like resonate with that. When you do something, whether it's at work or you accomplish something in your private space or at home, and like you get that satisfaction, and people are like, well done, like really good work, great, excellent. And you're like, you feel like for a moment at least, like, yeah, I can do anything.
There's that whole, there's a thing called the Michelangelo effect, isn't there? Which is, and I'm probably not going to explain this exactly, but essentially it's when you are around people that see you in a really great light, that people that believe in you or champion you in some way, that actually the science of that is that we can start to live into that. We can start to be molded by their belief in us. Obviously, the sad truth on the opposite side is if you're around people who, you know, are demotivating and not your champion and negative and not very nice to you, equally the truth, the same can be true, that you begin to think, well, I am a crap person. But if you can be in communities where people are championing you, it's amazing. I mean, we've got somebody in our, and I'm not sharing her name or anything, so I'm not sure, it's not in without the confidence, but one of our members who really struggles to, or has really struggled in the past to eat out in front of people, you know, like eating food and stuff in front of people in social situations, just made her really uncomfortable, really nervous. And, you know, she's been with us for, you know, a good few months now and really been trying to do that. And, you know, panic attacks have ensued and all of the things, that anxiety that's come up with it. And not just me talking through techniques and things she can do, but the whole community checking in and saying, you know, how did you get on? And this week, twice she's eaten out with people from work, and it's such a big deal. And I'm like, I could cry because I'm so happy for them when people do something like that. I'm like, this is such a big deal. And excuse me, I'm coughing because I'm so excited. I've got myself in a right tears. But when people do that, you know, there's often not a space for them in their own personal lives to explain how important that is. No, you know, because we, as you said earlier with the shoulds, we feel like we should be able to do that. I should be able to eat food with people and it not be a big deal. Other people do that. But if it is a big deal, then it's a big deal. And then if you then get past that being a big deal, you feel the fear and you do it anyway, as they say, that's amazing. And having that community going, you're amazing. She's messaged me this week, you know, just like, I just love that. The way she phrased it, I really loved. She said, thank you for creating a space where you can all help me save myself. You've helped me save myself. And I think that's such a nicer way of putting it, because when you work as a coach, you'll often get people in the best intention and they'll say, you've saved my life, or and I never own that at all, because it makes me feel quite uncomfortable, because I didn't do that. You did that. Like, you did that. You went to that job interview. You asked that person out. You broke up that relationship. You got that job. You did that. I might have given you some tools that helped you to see your way through it. But I loved how she phrased that. And that really comes down to that community. And, you know, if you think about Alcoholics Anonymous and places like that, they've always understood the element of community and accountability, working with other people. That's such an important key to staying on track. And I think that for me has been a really interesting learning over the last couple of years, of not just doing one-off stuff where people come to a workshop or they work with me on their own, but also having the backing of people on that same journey with them.
Yeah, great. And, you know, like, just because you're the no nonsense coach, like, no nonsense around this. I know, like, when you, as a coach, you give people tools to do things that they go out and do the work, but like, you have done it as well. Like, you've created the community, you've built the space, and you literally are helping people change their lives. And it's amazing to hear that your community has been so successful. Just that one story. I'm sure there are hundreds of those stories out there. And it's really inspiring and heartwarming to see someone doing something so positive in their community.
Thank you. And it is important. Like, I said this to because I got a copy of my book yesterday, and it was that the first time I've seen it off the screen in person. And I definitely had a moment where I was like, yeah, I was dead excited and that. And I was saying to the girls, it's so important. And I haven't done this in the past. In fact, I actually talk about that in my book. I haven't always celebrated the wins. Because of that, going on to the next thing, I've often done that without recognizing this moment's important. Like this, if you don't reflect on this, there'll be something that changes and shifts, and you might realize you didn't enjoy it in that moment. You didn't really, take a moment to go, "Ooh, I did a thing, that was good." You'll just be always chasing, and you'll always be looking for something outside of yourself. I think really stopping. And so yesterday I really did try to sit with myself and go, you wrote a book, and that's really good. Well done, you. And I really try to acknowledge it. It doesn't always come naturally to us, does it? But taking stock that I look at my life sometimes. I look at my home and my amazing children, and I think I do have to check myself sometimes and go, you did do this. Like, you were not handed this. You did some stuff. You made some brave decisions, and it is important to acknowledge that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And absolutely right. And it's important to make space for that on a regular basis as well, not just like when the book comes out, not just when you've managed to overcome something that's difficult for you, right? I always try and encourage my clients to do this, like at the end of a month. So you've got like a clear marker, like, what have I achieved this month? Like, no buts, no, but I didn't do this, or but I've got this coming up. Like, what have you marked off the to-do list this month? How have you showed up for yourself? How have you showed up for your family? Like, how many times have you done the things that you said you were going to do without any buts, without criticizing yourself? Just be happy and grateful for the little things that you've done in the day, and even just like at the end of every day, there's a lot of talk of morning routines, and I work with clients to build morning routines, but evening routines at the end of the day, bookends, like sitting down. There's always that thing of like, who are you when your head hits the pillow and the lights go out? And I think a lot of people at that point, it's just self-criticism, what we've got coming up tomorrow. And that's the time for a lot of people, and in the morning as well, when it's just like, it's all going off. But it's like, just have that time. It's like, what have I done today that was good?
Yeah.
How have I shown
I
up?
talked to my clients, and sat next to me here, because I was in our last session we did together this month. We talked about stress and burnout, and one of the things I was trying to encourage them is the habit of good enough, which sounds negative, but it's not. The habit of good enough, rather than people who are constantly trying to perfect every area of their lives will find that their life by default becomes very imperfect. Whereas if you can cultivate, and that doesn't mean not putting your foot on the pedal sometimes to go that extra mile, I don't mean that, but good enough in the areas where it's okay to be good enough. Like, you know, I will never ever say, I've got a lovely home, right? But I am a messy human being. I'll create chaos in my wake. Like, I know I do. And then I'll spend like an hour tidying up because I'm like, oh, I don't like the mess. Who made this? Who did this? Who's done all this mess? And it's me. I'm the one who's done it. But if I can go, like, if I can do enough where it's like, it's cool, it's livable, it's not horrible, that's all right with me. Like, I could go that perfectionist, like, I'm gonna, you know, do all of the TikTok hacks and like all of that, and my house is going to be perfect. But do you know what would happen to the rest of my life? It would be highly imperfect. So I think it is really recognizing the things that we do, because it's hard being an adult. It's hard being an adult human being in the world with all of the stuff we're expected to do. And at the end of the day, just acknowledging what that is. And I often do that with my kids as well. I'll say, what did you do good today? Like, what was, we often say, what are your three favorite, can't speak today, 3 favorite things. That was a tongue twister. Your 3 favorite things of the day. Like, what did you enjoy? What was good about today? And on the days that they say nothing and they tell me it was a rubbish day, and that's when it's like non-negotiable to tell me, because they're the days when you need to do it. And also, like you said, like, just reflecting on, what did you do good today? What did you learn today? These are questions, you know, I do it with my kids often, but then I share mine with them as well. But you can do this, as you say, as your head's hitting the pillow, you can think to myself, where did I win today? And without the slaver, without the rest of it, the inner critic voice, just where did I do good? Like, I did good in some way. You know, if I look back on today, I've went to the gym today, I did good. And my house is not a complete hovel today. I mean, we can see mess right now because I've messed it back up again, but it's decent today. I've done good. I've had a lovely chat with you. I've done some work. Like, there's been loads of wins, and I could reflect on, but you didn't do that though, did you? I could do that, but how shame never motivated anybody anywhere, did it? It just doesn't work.
Never. And that is such a good, there's 2 things that's awesome about that. The first one is that I call this 3 TTs, 3 top things. And I actually ask clients to do it throughout the day. And like we talk about gamifying, actually, like, if you're someone that sits at a desk, maybe just have your 3 post-it note with 3 TT. And like, as soon as you get up, like, the game is to do so. And you can start with just like coffee. I had a lovely coffee this morning on the way into work, or like, I really appreciated that. Or I had a nice little scroll on social media. I had a nice little laugh. And then like, the game is just to like make it better throughout the day. So like, you can actually go through the day and do that. The other thing is that when you're thinking about it mentally, and you notice that negative voice coming in saying, oh, but this, that, the other, that's a really good opportunity to just observe that voice and be like, all right, wow. Because like, when you're trying to focus on like what you've done well, and it's really important that people like don't then be judgmental of that voice and be like, yes, that thing again. Like, it's very important.
I've lost at self-development. I've failed. No, that voice is going to be there. Yeah, I think that's, listening to that is important. Like, we're never going to get to a stage, and I will often say as well, we're never going to get to a stage where that voice isn't there. And if that voice wasn't there, that inner critic, obviously we'd like to turn it down now and then, but if that voice wasn't there, you'd probably be a sociopath. Like, you need to have that voice. That's the voice of reflection. It's often based on fear. It's often based on old stories. But we can observe it, and we can observe it with a compassionate ear. If we can observe it and go, oh, that's interesting. Why am I saying that to myself today? That's not very kind. Like, would I say that to somebody else? No, I wouldn't. Okay, so why am I saying that? I'm saying that because of, and I will say this as well to clients, like, because it's based a lot of the time on old stories, you can almost think to yourself, oh, that's the I'm too much storyline. Oh, okay, that's interesting. That's what's playing out here. Okay, it's all right, brain, I've got this. I'm not too much now. I'm just enough. I'm just enough for the right people. Because that was one of mine. Like, for years, it was, you're too much. Everybody wants you to stop talking, which they may well do at times, but I would hope they would say, Holly, shut up now. Enough is enough. Please do. You just have to raise your hand. And maybe I should get like a Holly, stop talking flag for people.
That no one really wants that.
I'll brand that up. I'll get myself the talking stick is something we tried in my house, actually, because we live in a house of chatty people where everyone's fighting for their space. But yeah, I think, you know, just being aware of the stories that we tell ourselves. Mine was, a lot of the time was, you're too much, and that voice will be there, that critic. will be there, but I'll observe that and I'll think, okay, are you being fair to yourself here? Or, one, you do have something that will create that. So you have literally an executive function issue where that will happen quite naturally. So drop the shame of that. That's part of your personality. Also, your being too much has got you to where you are today. So, whatever, there's the good and the bad of all of that. Me having on my, school reports, Holly does not stop talking. Well, I didn't, but I talked myself into a business and life and a great life. So, it's not all bad. So those people that are, have still got those stories from some teacher at school, remember there's good and bad to all of those things that you were told.
Absolutely. It's like integrating those parts. And in the work that I do, we call those, I work with clients and we call those things gremlins, like gremlin message. You get like really laser focused on like what the message is. Sometimes even like where it came from. And, we do like a whole ceremony around this, but like just we'll like give it a name and like a name of someone that you don't know.
Yeah, love it.
And, the key point with gremlins is we say that they're along for the ride, but we don't right up front and we don't let them make decisions for us.
Love it. That's pretty. One of my clients who's in the membership, she calls hers Shitty Susan. It really makes me laugh. I don't know why, and sorry to all the Susans that might be listening to this, but it just makes me chuckle because it just sounds funny. And actually even the naming of it, making it funny can be useful, can't it? Because you can laugh at that noise sometimes and you can think, Christ, what a ridiculous, why am I being such an arsehole to myself? Like, I don't have to do that. It's like, in fact, I was talking about that just today. I was saying we actually, we do get a choice, as you say. Is the gremlin sitting in the front or the back today? Well, the Shitty Susan sat in the front seat today. Well, Shitty Susan can get out the car if she's going to continue, but we can almost laugh at the absurdity, because the thing is, we are all the same. We're very unique in our likes and dislikes and triggers and all of that stuff, but there's so much that is similar. You might have your own Shitty Susan, but we are so similar in that, and we're all battling those. It doesn't matter if you're watching somebody on social media and you're thinking they've all got their life together. No, they haven't. They haven't. They've still got the same gremlins that you've got. They might be better at dealing with it. They might be a bit more on top of it. They've still got the same noise as everybody.
Yeah. And, they might not, there's always that thing of, and this is what social media, I love social media. It's great. It's super helpful for connecting people, but where it sometimes becomes problematic is where we look at people and judge their lives as being fantastic from like this snapshot. And even sometimes people, and you meet, like I try to encourage people to not judge people's outsides by your insides, right? So if you're on the inside feeling, oh, bloody hell, look at them, they've got like loads of nice stuff, that's your insides. Like you're only seeing their outsides, you can't see like what they're going through on the inside. And like everyone's got those gremlin messages, those struggles, and that can help us at both ends, not to compare ourselves to other people in terms of what they have got, and also sometimes just to be more compassionate to people as to what they're going through if they're having a tough time.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
And what a great conversation. I'm loving this. It's great. One of the things I really want to talk about is Restival, because this just sounds awesome.
I'm very excited about it. So the Restival, which I did not come up with that name. I can't claim it. It's an excellent name, a Restival. It was actually my event planner who suggested it to me. And I was like, yes, Junie Pooney Events, for anybody that wants to look at her stuff. And so when I knew the book was coming, I've done lots of workshops in the past. I did the Happy Me Project, did a tour around the UK, pre-pandemic, and I did one post-pandemic kind of Happy Me workshop, which was really low key and just me chatting and working through stuff. But I love doing the in-person stuff. I really do like that, and I really think we crave it right now because we just haven't had access to it. So when I knew the book was coming out, I was like, and I have to say this was really last minute, typical of my personality, just we'll do it now. This is happening now, big bloody Restival. So I was like, let's do it. I'll do a book launch, but a book launch sounded really boring. And I thought, that sounds really boring. Not just me, like reading my book. Like the book's great. I'm not saying it's boring, but it just didn't sound that exciting. So I was like, why not just bring in loads of amazing guest speakers. We'll have a panel. We'll talk about self-development. We'll make it a day with activities and things you can do. So that's what's happening on the 26th of June in Warwick, so in the middle of England. It's a gorgeous venue. It's a lovely space. And there's going to be nice activities for you to try, things for you to do. It's a lovely space to come and hang out. There's an outdoor bit. We're hoping the weather's going to be nice so we can go and get outside. It will be very much, there'll be things to do with the book there and things for you to look at. We have some brilliant speakers. We've got somebody who's going to do breath work and dance types. Don't be scared because I said dance, by the way, everybody that's listening. Very fun wake up types. Is that your people listening?
I'll leave it actually.
You're welcome to come, by the way. You are invited to come for free. So yeah, we're going to have people speaking. So we've got people talking about why you've never got anything to wear. So it's about confidence, self-confidence. We've got lessons from a clown, my friend Emma Stroud, who's going to talk about play and how play is so important for us. We have Lee Brennan, who was in a boy band, 911. We've got Jess Impiazzi and Taylor from the Waffle Shop podcast, who are going to be on my panel. And that panel is going to be, we're just going to be chatting about mental health. And I think it is important sometimes to have more high profile people on those panels, because again, like we just said, there's that tendency to see somebody who's had success in an area and go, well, they must have it all together. They must have had no pain in their lives. And, we know it's not true really when we think about it, but sometimes I think it's really nice to hear on a human level somebody's story. So we've got a lovely panel happening, and I will be chatting and talking about all kinds of stuff. And it's just going to be a really lovely day to be surrounded by people who are interested in self-development. And so there's lots of things I haven't fine-tuned for it, because I want to I'm like a child. I just want to chuck in new ideas all of the time. And my poor event planner who's helping me, we just got to feel sorry for her, because I'm chucking ideas at her. Thankfully she's fabulous, so she can deal with it. But it's going to be a really good day and a nice space to have something to go to and to get out and be around really cool, nice, non-judgmental people. And I always, at every event, and I will do this for this as well, I appreciate that it's a big deal for some people to come to stuff in real life. And a lot of the time I'll have people that are messaging me before and they're having panic attacks and anxiety and worries, and they haven't slept the night before, and there's no judgment on that. And what I do is I will do a video of going in, so you can see the space, so you can see what it's going to look like. I will tell you where the parking's going to be, what the train is, where the trains are, and all of that stuff, because I know that's the kind of stuff that makes us anxious. And I'm also creating a space in there where I'm going to have ear defenders, so you can go and decompress somewhere, right? So there's just a space where you can just go on, no noise, just I need a minute, it's all too much, it's all a bit overwhelming. And I need that myself. So I've got the in-ear things, because sometimes noise bothers me and it gets a bit too sensory overload. And I appreciate when people come to something in person like this, especially if you've come with all the anxiety of getting there, and then you're there and it's all a bit much. You might want to just go and sit, and we're creating a whole space for that. So you can just go and sit somewhere, just catch your breath for a minute and just sit.
Amazing.
It will be a nice space of just loveliness. That's what it will be.
Sounds great. Sounds like you got it all covered off. And basically what you're saying is any inquiries of any nature, no matter how small, everyone should direct them directly towards you, straight in your DMs, like where are the toilets?
No, not all of that stuff. No, I'm going to give you the stuff. I'll put it out into the world.
Okay.
Personal responsibility, everybody. I mean, I'm not your mom. That's the I do say that as a coach. I'm not your mom. I've got two of my own. I want you to have personal responsibility, but I also do appreciate that when you come into stuff like this, there are just sometimes you want to, you want to know where. I get when people are, feeling anxious, you want to know where the exits are. You want to know where can I go outside and sit down? And I have really thought about this, because I know what it feels to feel like that. I am you guys. Like I am that as well. I work through all of the same stuff, and I'll often say I'm in the trenches too. Like I have been through stuff, go through stuff, and I see the blind spots when you come into something like that. It can feel really daunting. And for some people coming to that, it's not even, and I've had this in the past, it's not even the content or what's happening at the event. It's actually the act of getting there in the first place is bigger than anything. and it's amazing. And you might feel absolutely burnt out when you do, because it's taken so much just to get to something. So I get that, like, and you know, I'm sound, like I won't be horrible, I won't be scary or like pick you out or anything. It will be dead chilled. So yes, get your tickets. There'll be all of the stuff. I'm sure you put links below the podcast, but you can get it all on my website. It's all there and on my social media.
Amazing. It sounds like you've thought of everything, and this event is for everyone, especially for people that feel like this is not the sort of thing that they would typically go to, and that it's going to be a safe space for anyone and everyone to show up and, you know, just take some small steps in the direction of making themselves feel a little bit more happy and a little less crappy.
Absolutely. Perfect.
There you go. Well, this has been amazing. You know, like what comes through is just, for me, or what you sort of evoke in me, is that this unstuffy, straight talking, down to earth approach to self-care and self-development. And I really just think like that's really, really what a lot of people need in this world right now. This stuff is not for a certain subset of people, it is for everyone. And that means that we need people out there that have like the skills and the language to translate it for people that you know, like can hear that language. So I think you're amazing. You're doing fantastic work. You're one of the very, very many angels of the North. There are so many, too many.
Love it. Thank you.
Work. And yeah, where can people find you on your socials and your websites? Because I know everyone's going to be.
I am hollymatthews.com/all my stuff. Again, I just try to keep it simple. I hang out on Instagram a fair bit. I am Holly Matthews. I do have a Facebook group, which I'm not in a massive amount now. I have to be really honest with you. It's a free space though, and I do go in there, and there is lots of old videos in there that you can watch, and lots of talks about self-development. That's the Happy Me Project Facebook group. It's an amazing community in there, and always a safe space to land. And then, of course, you've got my membership and the book and all of those. There's a podcast as well, which I have to be, again, very honest and say I'm on there sometimes, and sometimes I'm not. I do it and then I don't. I have recorded loads, but they haven't been edited, and they'll get out when they get out. Okay, but there is plenty on there for people to listen to. But yeah, comment if you type Holly Matthews into Google and you don't find me, then the internet is broken and you should phone somebody and tell them the internet is broken, because I'm there. I mean, you'll find all sorts probably, but I'm there. So come and say hello and tell me you came from this podcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, this has been great. Amazing. Great and amazing. Grazing's perfect. Wonderful conversation. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you at Restival, and I'll see you again soon. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.